because we don't know the hour or the day. Time is such a gift, try and control your destiny. We don't know the hour or the day. Unity is strength, let's stand as one without delay. Cause no bad vibe me a chant. Me no want no bad vibe me a chant. I just peace the times all around, yeah. No bad vibe me a chant. No bad vibe me a chant. Say me no want no bad vibe me a chant. I just peace the time all around, yeah. No bad vibe me a chant.
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing today? Welcome to another episode of Death Taught Us How to Live. But it's a little bit different. It's not just Death Taught Us How to Live. We're in the month of October. So you know what that means. This is the time that AVM Superhero shows you why he is called AVM Superhero. We break down what's called AVM Awareness Month in the United States and all over the world. And today's not going to be any different. You know, this is part 3 of our show. But before I get started, you know, I got to put on my diffuser. I got my air quality, going to make my room smell nice. This is Hotel Lobby. So Hotel Lobby's coming on today. And I have a great friend that's going to come on the stage with me today. His name is Vinny. He is an AVM survivor, and he wants to tell us about his story as well as how you can tell what an AVM is and the difference between other type of brain bleeds or any type of AVM within your body. So without any further ado, let me bring on my friend. His name is Vinny. Vinny, how you doing, sir?
Hey, how are you, AVM Superhero?
I am good, brother. I am so good. I'm so happy to have you on the show. I've been speaking to you for quite a while. I met your mother, and she's a very nice woman as well. And but I haven't really got your story. You know, you've been telling me a little bit here and there, but I want you to grace our stage and tell us exactly what happened to you and why you're so passionate to bring awareness of AVM. So the floor is yours, sir.
For sure. Well, thank you again, AVM Superhero. So hi, my name is Vinny, and I am 28 years old. And at the age of 23, almost 5 years ago, because at the end of the month is my anniversary, I suffered a hemorrhagic stroke due to an AVM rupture in my thalamus, in my right thalamus up in my brain. So it was October 30th of 2020. I was actually sitting at this very same desk in this very same chair, maybe wearing these same headphones. I'm not sure if I've had these this long, but in a different state. I've since moved, but it's still the same setup. And I was playing games with my friends late into the night when all of a sudden I was struck with the most intense headache of my life. It felt like I got hit in the head with a hammer. That's how like blunt and like solid it felt, like the impact and how suddenly it came on. And then the left side of my body started tingling and going numb. And I had heard of the acronym FAST somewhere. So I knew that one-sided anything happening in your body was not a good sign. And I had enough like cognition left at that moment to call for an ambulance. I was still living at home with my parents, paying off my student loans from college, which I had just graduated in 2019. And I was working my first real job as, you know, my first introduction to being an adult. But I was still living at home. So I decided to try to make my way up to my mother's room to let her know that I was going to the hospital, and that I was on the phone with 911. And I could still distinctly remember hearing myself start kicking the back plate on every step as I was ascending the stairs from my kind of setup in the, it was a split level house. So ascending the stairs to my parents' room, and I could hear myself kicking the back plate with every step because my left foot was starting to lose control. I was starting to lose control of the left side of my body as well as it tingling. But I made it to her room and I sat on the edge of her bed as I was on the phone with the 911 operator. I told the 911 operator, worst headache of my life, which apparently they listen for. And that told him enough to have him send an ambulance. So I told them my address. And at that point, I believe I handed the phone off to my mother because the pain was starting to get too intense. And as she continued the phone call with him and she was rubbing my back to try to calm me down, I remember the left side of my body went completely numb. So it wasn't tingling anymore. I couldn't feel it at all. And I distinctly remember that because, like I said, she was rubbing my back and I could no longer feel her doing so. And so obviously incredibly anxious, incredibly panicked in this moment. Definitely felt that sense of impending doom that, like this is life-threatening. And I remember starting to hear the sirens in the distance, and I was so anxious to get help that I thought, let me try to get up and meet them at the door so I can, get to help as soon as I can. But when I tried to stand, I hit the floor. My left leg was no longer doing anything. So I was trying to stand on one leg and hit the floor. Then I have another flash of a memory of being on the stretcher. I have no idea how they got me on the stretcher, but I remember being on the stretcher at the top of the staircase and wondering, how are they going to get this thing down? This thing's on wheels. And then that's it for about a month. So this happened October 30th, 2020. And I do not have another solid memory until about Thanksgiving, where I was at the rehab hospital. So don't remember the acute care at all. But there are some pictures that exist. I believe the stream may have a picture of me from no, that's when I'm home. But anyway, my next memory is from Thanksgiving time at the rehab hospital, where I started to get some inkling as to what happened to me. Because I started to go through therapy, specifically speech therapy, to start to understand things again and start to be able to retain memory again. Because while I never lost the ability to speak, I had lost the ability to remember things. Any new information that was coming to me would basically not make it past my immediate train of thought. Like if you were to tell me something like, hey, Vinny, for dinner tonight, it's going to be chicken. I would hear that. And as soon as you were done speaking that sentence, I would have no idea that tonight for dinner was chicken. So we had to work on all that. And as I began to remember more and more and my cognition got better and better, I came to understand what happened to me, which was, as I said, a cerebral AVM had formed an aneurysm and burst in my right thalamus. And so, as I said before, that came with left-sided deficits. I had to relearn how to open and close my left hand, how to, move it at all, move the entire arm, how to move the leg, how to walk again with a cane, how to remember things, as I said, and just generally work on cognition. But now, almost 5 years out, if you were to just run into me on the street, you probably couldn't tell. I'm not sure how other people perceive me, but most people can't really tell if they just run into me on the street. It's only if you really get to know me and study me that you start to see the deficits. But yeah, so I've made an incredible recovery through PT, OT, speech therapy, therapeutic recreation, like everything. I got really top-notch medical treatment, thankfully. And yeah, now here I am 5 years out, and I share my story on social media to try to spread awareness about this condition and about neurological recoveries in general, and kind of help out the community.
Wow, like your story is really remarkable and also very familiar, because it seemed like a lot of people that have some type of brain bleed go through similar stuff. Or come over
Listen to my sound.
to some of these comments. Let's read them on the screen and go from there.
Yeah.
So comment number 1 is this is from
Michaela.
Michaela. Do you know this person?
I do.
Glory be to God that you have some memory of what happened. Absolutely.
Yeah, it honestly, there are some things I remember that I kind of wish I didn't, but I am thankful to have all of the cognitive and memory come back that I have had.
Cool. Here's another one. I think it's Michaela again. It says,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Michaela.
And we also have some comments coming in from Instagram. So let me slide over to Instagram. They can't come up onto this screen. So if you guys are interested in bringing it onto the screen, Instagram and also the other one, TikTok, doesn't allow me to transfer over. Facebook and YouTube does. So let me just go over to Instagram real quick, read that particular comment, and go from there. So we have this person, Ashley, says, such a scary situation. You guys handle it so well. Well, thank you, Ashley.
You kind of don't have a choice. You just you kind of have to handle it as it's dealt to you, you know.
Do we have any more comments? Oh, yes, we do. Michaela again says, God is so good. Absolutely. Vinny, I was listening to your story and a couple of things came to my mind, and I was kind of chuckling to myself. I'm like, man, this happened to you too.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't really speak on it, but since you spoke on it, I was like, hey, I can speak on it too. When this happened to me and I called 911 and the paramedics came to get me. And when they was trying to pull me out of my truck, I almost fell into the street because I couldn't walk. I didn't know I couldn't walk.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, yo, get up, walk. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what was going on with me. So when you said that, I'm like, wow, you went through the same type of situation. Can you go back to that particular time? Because I think people don't understand how slight this is. And a lot of people lose their life because they don't act fast. You brought up fast. Yes. They don't act fast enough. And they think it's very, it's supposed to be very, very dramatic when you have a brain bleed or you have a stroke, but it's really subtle. Can you explain that particular process or what was going through your mind and how it was actually affecting your body?
Yeah. So, I mean, thank God I didn't, but I almost didn't react like I did if it wasn't for the left-sided deficits occurring, because I had suffered with headaches all my life, which come to find out may have been because of this AVM. But I always had them downplayed whenever I told people about them because everybody gets headaches, right? Like literally everybody gets headaches. Mine were very severe and intense and pounding, but I guess I never used the right amount of words to describe them that raised any suspicions to anyone. And so, yeah, I didn't really know anything to look out for, but I had heard of the acronym FAST. But what this one definitely, it presented differently than most of my headaches. Most of my headaches would come on slowly and just ramp up over time to the point that they were unbearable and I needed to take medicine. But this one was very much a, like I said, being struck with a hammer. It was immediate. It was almost sharp. It was like a solid, kind of like a solid block of pain that just came on instantly. But that wasn't enough to freak me out. I probably would have tried to sleep it off if not for the left-sided weakness that started to occur. Because like I said, I got headaches all my life. And so really, I think that my advice is if you ever have a headache that resembles a thunderclap, which is what they call it, right? The thunderclap headache, that's something to be worried about. And the left-sided weakness I knew from the acronym FAST, which I know that you've covered a lot on your streams and lives.
Well, please just explain that to the audience, so if they don't know what that is.
Yeah, so the full acronym for nowadays is BFAST. So the B stands for balance, E stands for eyes, F stands for face, A stands for arm, S for speech, and T, time to call 911. So essentially, if you have balance problems out of nowhere, eye difficulties out of nowhere, one-sided facial droop out of nowhere, one-sided arm or leg weakness out of nowhere, speech difficulties out of nowhere, that's time to call 911 because every second matters when it's neurological.
And when Vinny is talking about 911, for people that's outside of the United States, this is called emergency contact, whatever that number is for you guys, that's who you should call. And Vinny is basically telling you guys, if he didn't feel the numbness in his body's just going completely limp, he probably just, brushed it off. But you said the thunderclap as well as the numbness, that's what actually made him more alert to say something's really going on here.
Yeah.
Vin, oh, geez, we got some. You're a very popular guy today, sir. Comments come in. Michaela, again, you make the best with what you are given.
True.
Donna Dunkley saying, wow, that was pretty young. Give God the glory. You have recovered well. So nice of you for sharing. I will share this with my son, who is now 23.
Yeah. I definitely didn't think this could happen this young.
And I think that's the reason why, young people like you actually do this, because a lot of people your age don't realize that this could happen to them. And we want to make sure that they understand the warning signs if this does come up. Am I right with that?
Absolutely. Kind of twofold for me sharing my story. Number one is, like you said, to raise awareness for people who may not have been as lucky as me to have known that acronym beforehand. But also to find community of my own, because with such a rare thing of being a stroke survivor at 23, I shared my story to try to find anyone else who may have been through something similar at my age. Because in my rehab program, though I met a lot of really incredible people, no one shared my story. Nobody else was my age having suffered a stroke. I was with other older stroke patients, and I was with other people my age, but most of them had been in car accidents or something like that. So I felt really alone in the beginning stages of my recovery, and that's what motivated me to share.
Vinny, you're saying something that is like a mouthful to me, because I was the same way. I was in the hospital going through rehab, and all these people, a stroke survivor, was 20, 30, my senior. Yes,
Yeah.
and I was like, this, I don't really relate. So yeah, I really understand what you're saying right here. I have some more information, some more comments coming from Instagram. So let me go over to Instagram real quick and read it. This one is from the same person before, Ashley Max says some places are adding an extra T.
Oh, okay.
The end of for thunderclap headaches.
Oh, cool.
Teach at my hospital now. So
that's awesome.
That is very awesome. And because I think a lot of times that people automatically assume when you have a stroke or you have some type of brain bleed that they pretty much on two different sides of the spectrum. But when now we're talking about the thunderclap stuff, that's more of a aneurysm or a brain bleed. And I'm gonna let you break that down in just a minute. But somebody else is coming in with another comment.
Yeah,
let's bring that person in, and then we could talk about that in just a moment.
Yeah.
Can you bring the comment in? S. Myers said, "Hi, Vinny. So happy to see you." So
nice to see you too.
Vinny's so popular today. He's so popular. I love it.
But yeah, so you were talking about what, aneurysm?
Yeah, well, I get confused, and yeah. I think somebody really helped me out in the early stages of this, because I had mine in 2017, and I was confused on how to articulate what I went through. So I used to use the tag of aneurysm and also AVM. And then somebody came to me and said, "Did you have both of them happen to you?" I was like,
right.
"No, I didn't have both of them happen to me. I had a AVM." And it was like, "Well, you know that the AVM community is slightly different than the aneurysm community."
Right.
And you got to understand, I was like, I don't know what the heck you talk about, but she had some credentials behind her. It was Dina Chung.
Oh, that was Dina. That's amazing.
And she's a cool person. And Dina is a person from there goes the shirt. TAF from the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation. They are a nonprofit organization out on the West Coast that actually brings awareness and do support of people with aneurysms and AVMs. And I just want you to talk about like the differences, and I think you touched about it a little bit, but the differences
Yeah,
of an aneurysm and an AVM, so people out there can understand.
for sure. I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I had heard of the word aneurysm before. I didn't know really what it meant. I thought the aneurysm was the bleed. An aneurysm, though, you can imagine like a garden hose, and that's your blood vessel. And an aneurysm is like a bulge. So, like in those old timey cartoons where they like blow air into it, and it makes a big bulge in the garden hose. That's what you can imagine an aneurysm is, which, it's a weakness in the walls. It's a bulging out of the walls due to weakness. And it's, a weak point where it could potentially burst open. And that's why it's a problem and something that, your medical team would want to do an intervention about. However, an AVM, it stands for Arteriovenous Malformation. So it's a malformation in your arteries and veins where instead of, right, blood gets pumped out of your heart into the arteries, which are high pressure. They carry all that high pressure that just got sent from the pump, and it takes that oxygenated blood to your body. Not a medical professional, just what I've learned as a survivor. But it takes that blood out throughout your body, and it's meant to handle those high pressure things coming out of your heart. And then it's supposed to go into capillaries and get diffused, have that pressure be diffused before it returns to your veins and then goes, back to your heart and does the whole cycle over again. But in an AVM, there's no capillaries to diffuse that high pressure. So you're going straight from high pressure to low pressure. And so that's a problem. The veins are not meant to handle that high pressure blood coming out of your arteries. And so it can form aneurysms in those veins. And that's apparently what had happened to me. I formed an aneurysm due to my AVM, and that aneurysm had then burst that night on October 30th, 2020. And that burst is called a hemorrhagic stroke, which stroke is just any interruption of blood flow to your brain. So when you hear the word stroke, most often you're thinking of ischemic strokes, which is when a clot is blocking an artery or a vein. And so it's blocking that blood flow to your brain due to a clot. But in my case, it was hemorrhagic in nature. So a blood vessel burst up there. And because I was bleeding, my brain wasn't getting the oxygen it needed. And so it was a stroke. It's just a different mechanism.
Thank you for beautifully articulating that. I never articulated that way before, but I love what you just did.
Listen to
Producers, I let it be
my
talked. We got so many people that want to talk to us. So hey, let them talk. Bring them in, producer. We got S. Myers here. Says, wish there were groups we could get together with in person. I found our stories interesting. I have never had a headache. So
there are.
I just want to let you do that. So you just came back from one of those such groups, right? So let's talk about that. Well, can you explain what you went to and why that is important as well?
Yeah, and let me grab my lanyard that I have from the event. So I just came back from an event put on by the account Maddie Stroke of Luck on Instagram, called Fast Forward, which she runs all over the country now. It's called her Fast Forward Summit, and it's where a bunch of people who have had strokes and maybe some other brain injuries as well meet and mingle and meet with healthcare providers and other people in the biomedical research and like tech world. And they meet, mix and mingle with other survivors, hear some talks from some medical professionals about leading research and technologies that can help us. And then there's also TAF Walk, So the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation, based out of California that we were talking about earlier, they host an annual walk in San Francisco that I really want to go to one day, but I haven't been able to get out there yet. And they also do this thing called Over the Edge, which is a new thing, relatively new thing, where they go over the edge of a building in California to further raise awareness for AVMs and raise money for research as well. But yeah, so there are some groups that can represent us. And I know Maddie Stroke of Luck, who does the Fast Forward Summits, she also had an AVM. So she was actually the first person I met who had an AVM.
Really?
Yeah, so she was my first, like, when I was searching for community, sharing my story online, she was the first person I made contact with.
Gotcha. All right. So S. Myers, there are places and people and groups that you can actually join to actually talk to people face to face instead of just online.
Yeah.
So we're definitely there. We're actually doing a lot of things out there in this community, and we are very close knit. So if you throw out one name of an AVM survivor to another AVM survivor, most likely we know each other.
Yeah, chances are we know each other. And chances are we've somehow met too, like you and I.
It's amazing. Like it's such a rare disease. Only 1% of the world's population having it, but it seems like that 1% all knows each other. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I guess social media is that large. Okay, we got some more comments. We're in love. They love you today, sir. Next comment. This one is from Luniverse. She was on my show before.
I remember.
Oh, see, you do remember her. She said, #tribe. Love seeing you here. Survival knowledge.
Nice to see you again.
And we have another one from S. Myers. Would love to find out more. Absolutely. You could. Well, my producer's moving fast today. Luniverse is going again and saying, thank you for articulating and clarifying. #same journey. So thank you for actually making those great comments out there, Miss Luniverse. But S. Myers, yeah, like Vinny said, you could contact, what is this, Maddie Stroke of Luck?
Yeah, so Maddie Stroke of Luck on Instagram, or you could definitely go to taafonline.org. So that's TAAF online.org.
Mm-hmm.
And they have support groups that I attend monthly. They have them in a bunch of different time zones. I think there's one in the UK, one on the East Coast, and one on the West Coast. And that's every month. So I attend those support groups. And Maddie also, with her community, that's again Maddie Stroke of Luck on Instagram, she also does community calls every now and then.
See, so S. Myers, there's definitely people out there that you can in contact with and actually visit and see. It depends on where you are in this world. It might be difficult to actually see people face to face, but if you're in the East Coast of the United States or even on the West Coast, there are people there that actually gather together face to face. But Vinny, you said something earlier, and I want to circle back to that. I think this is very important.
For sure.
Besides, breaking down the understanding of a aneurysm versus an AVM, you was telling me that you was having headaches all the time, and you kind of tickled around the idea that it probably been contributed by your AVM.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that this is where we really have a divide in the road between an aneurysm and AVM, because aneurysm, we don't know how that could actually come. It could be a brain injury, somebody could hit in the head, so whatever type of situation. But an AVM, it could have been, you could have been conceived with it, and it could have affected your whole entire life. And I think a lot of people don't understand that part. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because like for me, I used to have conversations with people and they would argue with me. And they would say, well, you said that before. I'm like, I didn't say that. And I was very serious. I didn't remember saying things like that. And that actually destroyed a lot of relationships I had. And then, coming full circle, having the AVM rupture, then I'm like, oh, this is the reason why I did this. This is the reason why I couldn't speak this way. This is the reason why, I had these issues. I thought they were normal.
Yeah.
Can you break that down to me a little bit further, like how you actually understood that a lot of things happening in your life could have been caused by that AVM?
Yeah, so that's something that I've definitely been thinking on ever since the rupture really happened. kind of what was this AVM doing to me that wasn't normal? Because as you said earlier, AVMs are most often, if not always, I think, present from birth. They're congenital, not necessarily hereditary, although in some cases they can be, but they're present from birth. So I lived my whole life with an AVM. So it's hard for me to tell really what was normal and what wasn't. I definitely noticed that since having my treatment and everything, the super severe headaches I used to get no longer happen. So that was definitely a warning sign. But as far as developmentally, I'm not sure. I've always had problems like hearing things and possibly even seeing things from the left. And it's something that I look back and wonder, was that my AVM because it was on the right? Was it impacting that stuff on my left even before it had ruptured? And that's something that I'm not sure I'll ever get the definitive answer to, but it's something that I always wonder about now.
Yeah, because it baffles me that, you have people in your lives, and I don't know if you have this situation, but I had other people come to me and say, I have people in my life and saying things to me, and they didn't even realize that I had this problem all my life. They thought that I was just being a jerk. I'm like, no, you wasn't being a jerk. You had this issue. I had this one guy, he has it in his spine, the AVM in his spine.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
was wondering why he stuttered.
Mm.
He was like,
right.
I don't know why I stutter. Like, nobody else in my family stutters. Like, why do I stutter? Like, something could actually neurologically be wrong with you because of this AVM. That's why we go to a different line and say that, okay, these people over here that has AVMs need different type of support than people that have aneurysms.
Yeah, for sure.
Bring this awareness out. We got some more. I got some messages from Instagram as well, so we're gonna go back and forth. So I'll let my producer bring on the things from YouTube and actually Facebook, and then I'll go to the Instagram. So let's do the YouTube and Facebook.
All right.
We have another one from Universe. Self-awareness. Trusting your intuition is key to survival. The deepest connection is with self. Listen to your body. Absolutely.
So true.
Absolutely.
I wish I had been a little more serious about listening to my body before the rupture.
But that's the thing. That's the thing, Vinny. Like, you think that things are normal. You don't realize that this is not normal, because what kind of guidance, what kind of template do you have besides yourself?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have the frame of reference of what it feels like to be in anyone else's body but your own. So,
absolutely not.
It's all normal to you until somebody tells you, I don't deal with that. What do you mean?
Okay, we got some more. Okay, I hear you, my producer. I hear you. Okay, here's another one. Who do we have here? Okay, we have S. Myers here. Has your AVM been eradicated or removed? Gone?
So as far as we're aware, my AVM is gone. I never had a craniotomy. So like, because mine is in the thalamus, I'm not sure that they could have done that, but a craniotomy is where they remove part of your skull and then they can like surgically remove your AVM if it's in a place that they can get to. But for mine, that was not a possibility from what I understand. What they did for me was called an embolization procedure, which they went in through my artery, like one of my arteries in my legs, I believe, and they snaked a little tiny catheter all the way up through my circulatory system, up to my rupturing AVM, and they did what was called an embolization. And so the way I understand that is they essentially used some medical grade glue, and they snaked it up and deployed some glue up there, and that sealed up the bleed, and actually over time seems to have shrunk the AVM enough to where it's just gone. I know there are a couple different interventions you can go through. So you can, like I said, you can have that part of your skull removed and have them go in and take it out. They can put what's called a clip on it, where they clip it off, and you can imagine like a bag clip kind of holding a hose shut. So they can do that. They can do something called coiling, which I know a little less about, but they essentially fill up the aneurysm or the AVM with these coils that close it off. And they can also do radiation. So they can do, I I think it's called like stereotactic radiosurgery or something, where they blast you with radiation and it destroys it.
Is that Gamma Knife?
Yeah, Gamma Knife is one of the names. I know that there's another, Cyber Knife, like some other, I don't know if it's just like a different provider or a different like company, but I know that there's Gamma Knife and Cyber Knife. I don't know if there's any real difference between them, but yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so we got something from Instagram as well. So let's go to Instagram real quick, and I'll read it to you guys. This is Joss. Hey, Joss, how you doing?
Oh, Joss, hey, how are you?
Joss is saying, hey, I learned the difference between AVM and aneurysms, and that someone can have both through, guess who?
Dina.
You are the teacher.
Me.
Yes, you, sir.
Okay.
You're a Vinny. I don't know anybody else.
Yeah, true.
I don't know Vinny but you are the teacher. So I find this very interesting. Like, we have Josh's, I know her, you know her,
Yep.
a young lady come on, and she has an AVM as well. I'm not sure if she got hers removed or not. But, back to S. Myers, his has been eradicated by embolization.
Yeah.
And he's moving on with his life. And some people, they don't have that actual luxury. Some people still are living with it. They've been ruptured, and there's this inoperable is in a place inside of their brain that cannot get to. So we have a mixed bag. And I don't want you to be confused and thinking that it's only in the brain. This could happen anywhere in the body. Yeah,
that's something that I sometimes forget too. But yeah, AVMs can happen anywhere in your circulatory system.
Right.
I know that I've heard of it happening in the heart. I've heard of it happening in the lungs.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've heard that, pretty much, I mean,
anywhere
like we said, theoretically it can happen anywhere, but I've heard of it happening in the heart and lungs.
Wow. That's amazing. So, and if you're watching the show.
Oh, and in the face. I was just on someone's.
We were just on.
Yeah, we were both on the TikTok live with Ohm. Ohm and Jamie. Yeah, so it can happen anywhere.
So Ohm has it in her leg, and Jamie has it on her face, that she can actually see it. She's the second person that I know. The other one is Erica. Erica had it right behind her eye. But they're gonna be on our show in the next couple of weeks. So I'm very interested in actually understanding AVM from the perspective of people that don't have it inside of their brain, but inside of their body somewhere else. So that's pretty interesting as well. Do we have any more messages? All right, producer, I hear you.
That's gonna be stuck in my head all night now.
Yeah, that's your song now, sir. Luniverse saying coiled, left pica brain. So she has her coiled, because that's what I was just talking about, S. Myers. There are people out there that still have the AVM, but they have it coiled and it's under control, and they're managing it, and they have to live on life. And Luna is one of the persons that's actually speaking on that. She, a very beautiful young lady. I really regret saying that, because she's gonna really hit me up like, oh, you think I'm beautiful? Very beautiful young lady that had AVM, and she had her coiled because she couldn't get it removed. And we have another message from Donna Dunkley. My producers tell me to move on. Please, Liz, do you have any handicaps from the AVM? I was just wondering if you are fully recovered.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely do still have some deficits. I've made a lot of progress through the therapy that I've had. I mentioned during my story, when I first woke up, I couldn't use the left side of my body at all. But I've gotten a lot back, and I'm very lucky and grateful to my therapist for helping me to achieve that. My left hand still acts more or less as a left hand. Luckily I'm a righty, so I have a lot of function back, but I still don't use it that much because I'm, like I said, righty. But I can type on a keyboard decently well. I can walk pretty unaided. I wear an AFO when I go out of the house, which just lifts up my ankle to make sure I'm not dropping my foot. But more or less, I've made a very good recovery. Cognitively, sometimes I got to write things down, but I've always had to do that. So, but I've made a really incredible recovery. The only thing I haven't gotten back is I'm missing some vision over here on the left side. So let's see. I can't see my hand right now. And because of that, I have not been able to return to driving, because obviously you can imagine that that's pretty important to, be able to see things if you're going to be driving on the road. So that's my major deficit, is not being able to drive. But I've been able to return, luckily, to most everything in life, albeit with some pain and some difficulty. So I still require assistance at the airport and stuff like that if I'm standing in line for a long time. But I've been able to return to a lot of things, and I count myself very lucky for that.
Yeah, I think. Okay. Go ahead, producer. Luniverse saying, "Don't regret, I am beautiful." Yes, you are
See,
beautiful.
having you back from there.
Didn't I think I was going to eat my words?
Yeah.
Yes, you are beautiful. You are beautiful, my sister. You definitely are a very beautiful creature. Okay, here we go. Fully covered is something we will never see. We are reinvented, realigned.
I would definitely, realigned is a great way to put it.
I love that. And I'm glad she brought that up, because that's what I was going to go into a little bit. And I do have another comment on Instagram. I want to read that in a moment. But I want you to touch on this real quick, because I think the misconception that people have is that when you have a stroke, once that major hospital visit, therapy is over, that you recover. I personally, and I could be wrong, and I have interviewed over 300 people, I haven't met one person that's been a stroke survivor that's fully healed from everything. We just learn how to, like Luna said, reinvent ourselves.
Yeah.
Am I right with that, or do you know somebody that's fully healed, Vinny?
So I would never speak on someone else's recovery, because I don't know what it feels like to be in their body, just like they don't know what it feels like to be in mine. So I may see somebody that looks fully recovered, but maybe they deal with things still that I just don't see. But I do know that there are some people who have recovered more than me from what I can see, just visually. I know some people who have been able to return to driving and stuff like that, whereas I am not able to. But again, I don't know what it feels like to be in their body, and I don't believe in that whole fully recovered thing. I do like what Luna said about realigning and kind of reinventing yourself, because that's very much what I've done. I know that my priorities and kind of values are completely changed pre and post stroke. I've really come to be grateful for my stroke in a way, because of the things that it's shown me, as far as what is valuable and what is not. I think that before my stroke, I was on kind of a not a bad path, but just I like who I am post stroke and what I value now more than what I did before.
I so get it. That's why I made up the show. Death Taught Us How to Live. We are totally different. We think about things differently. We think about life differently. We even think about life differently. It's wild, and we can't really explain it, because you just have to go through it, and we don't want anybody to go through it.
Oh God, if I could take it away from everyone else, I would. But
absolutely. All right, I have another question. I have another question from or comment from Instagram. So let me read that to you, Vinny. This is from Joss again. She says, "I had a craniotomy for my AVM when it ruptured and left with a Helvia. I'm not sure what that is. Fight and cause a stroke. So I don't know what Helvia is. Do you know what that is? HELUVA.
Oh, hell of a.
Hell of a?
Yeah, she's just saying it's like slang for hell of a.
Oh, okay, hell of a time.
Hell of a time. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm like, oh, she gave me a medical term I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I guess.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
I am really old.
No, you're
all
good.
Right, so we got one more comment, then we have to get to our hot seat question. So do we have any more comments? No? Okay, cool. Vinny, did you want to say anything before we get to our hot seat questions?
Anything to say? So just, onto the values that I was talking about. Before all this, I valued money and possessions, and I wanted to, have a nice job and a nice car. And
all of these things that I look back on and I'm like, wow, that was really childish and just not what I value now. Because now all I want is time with my friends, time with my family, kind of the little things, I guess you could say, where it's like after being in the hospital, like not knowing if you're going to leave or, come home ever, what I value now is not, climbing the career ladder and being like this, like having money everywhere. That couldn't be further from what I want now.
It's wild because, I had the same epiphany before I had my AVM rupture. I made a post probably about 10 years before I had my AVM rupture. I'm like, hey, I just got because every year, I guess IRS sends you a letter of how much money you made each year.
Oh, yeah.
Working. And I was like, hey, I already made $1 million in my lifetime. I'm about to make my $2 million.
Yeah.
I was just talking about it as if that was a great accomplishment. And then when I had my AVM, my great accomplishment was actually swallowing food.
Yes, exactly.
Different.
Your perspective is totally changed. Like what you are grateful for, totally different.
Totally different. So, that's the thing that we go through as we have these brain injuries and trying to come back into life with it's like, and we really try to keep it sugar coated for you guys. We don't talk about the really underbelly of what actually happened to us while we was trying to learn how to walk again.
Oh yeah, the dark days.
Yeah, dark ages. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, I don't like to think about those days.
Yeah, we don't want to think about it either. Absolutely. And you don't want to think about it either. You don't want to see it. All right, Vinny, we're at the end of our show, and at the end of our show, we do what's called hot seat questions.
Listen to my sound.
My producer's really trying to get me tonight. All right, we have some more comments before we get to our hot seat questions.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Bring them on. Don Dunkley says, great, praise God. You're blessed. Oh, I guess that was the reason why she had to put that on. That makes sense. Thank you, Don.
So true.
All right, so back to the hot seat questions. So what I'm going to do is actually 4 hot seat questions, and I just want you to give me about 30-second sound bites of each one of those questions. And when you're ready for your next question, say AVM superhero, I'm ready for my next question. At the end of the 4th question, I want you to close out the show. So any information that you have for our audience, please leave it at that particular time. So I just want to make sure, everybody, I will not be talking to you after I give these hot seat questions. I just want to bid you guys farewell. Thank you for joining in tonight. Next week, we will have She is from, I believe, Kuwait, and she wants to bring some information to that side of the world about AVM. So I really are interested in seeing what she thinks about it with her country and in her culture. So if you guys are interested in that, please tune in. But we're still on Vinny. Let's talk to Vinny and give him his hot seat questions. Are you ready for your hot seat questions, sir?
AVM superhero, I'm ready for my hot seat questions.
I love it. Question number one. Here we go. Did you know what an AVM was before it happened to you?
No, I did not know what an AVM was. I had never heard the term before. Like I said, I had heard the word aneurysm before, but even now looking back, I didn't really understand what it meant. So I definitely had not heard of AVM before. But remember, AVM is Arteriovenous Malformation. AVM superhero, I'm ready for my next question.
All right, sir. Here is question number 2. What is the hardest part of your life now?
Okay, so the hardest part of my life now, not being able to drive limits me a lot in the area of the United States where I am. So that is pretty challenging, but luckily I have some amazingly supportive family and friends. I would say the hardest part recently has been the mental health that I kind of pushed to the wayside while I did my physical rehab and mental and cognitive rehab. So I kind of disregarded the mental aspect and the trauma mentally that came with all this and emotionally. So the most recent struggle has been battling that and getting back from kind of the trauma that I was left with emotionally. But I've made great strides there. So probably the eyesight. AVM superhero, I'm ready for my next question.
All right, cool. But before we get to question number 3, I saw something on Instagram. I just wanted to make sure that you respond to it because I find this a very important. That's what we're doing here, trying to bring awareness and bring some solitude to people that's going through bad times. So Josh is asking a question about how do you deal with those dark times, like especially when you're trying to learn how to walk again. How do you mentally get better?
Yeah. Um, I
Any
know
advice?
that I know that when I was in those dark times, I really tried to stay in the moment, which may not work for everybody, but it worked for me. And so by staying in the moment, I meant like making the most out of every moment because I couldn't remember my past, right? I had the memory problems, so I couldn't remember my past, so I couldn't live in the past. And I couldn't live in the future because I had no idea what my long-term prognosis was like. So I was like, okay, I only have this moment right now. How can I get the most out of this one moment? And so for me in the rehab hospital, that meant staying outside the nurses station and talking with the nurses and getting to know these amazing people who were taking care of me. And so really kind of focusing on what I could do in that moment while I was in those dark times to feel that little bit of joy, that little bit of connection, that little bit of, progress. That's how I got through the dark times then. And now it's by going to therapy and having a really good counselor.
See, since I opened back up the floodgates is open back up.
Yeah.
So I want to respond to that as well before that comment come up on the screen. Josh, what I do, and I know what I've noticed a lot of other survivors have done is they take their mind off of it. And what I mean by that is becoming active in something. And that's what I created this show. This is why I go and talk to people because it helps me forget about my issues and help other people. And so when you have a purpose and you have a drive,
Yeah.
it doesn't really take away the anguish and the anger that you had because you can't do the things that you used to do before, but it keeps you focused and make you accountable to keep on going forward. Because trust me, I'm still in my dark times.
Right.
Those days are not over for me, but like even today, I didn't want to do the interview. I was so tired. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Vinny is expecting me. Deaf Taught Us How to Live followers are expecting me. So I have to
Right.
get up and do the show.
So it's
I can go to sleep after the show, but right
Yeah.
now this has to be done. So this is my advice to you, Josh, is just find something to be accountable for. It could be just that you have to call somebody up in the morning and say hello to them. Whatever it is, just make something in your life more meaningful than just waiting for you to be able to walk again. Because
Yeah.
if you're just worrying about that all the time and it doesn't happen, you're going to be angry with yourself a lot. We have another question in there right in the middle of the hot seat questions, but hey, this is the time. Go ahead.
Let it roll. Let it roll.
Let it roll. Oh, okay. The Fresh Press says hearts, hearts, hearts. And so I'm gonna give you a little background on that. The producer is my daughter. The
Yeah.
First Press is my other daughter. So they're just going in right now. They just want to show their love. All right.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Are you ready for your question, sir?
I'm ready, AVM superhero.
All right. What do you want people to take from this interview?
So to take from this interview, I mean, literally everybody needs to know that acronym. Do you remember it? Be fast. So that's B for balance. That's E for eyes, F for face, A for arm, S for speech, and T, time to call 911. You got to take that away from this interview, and that your recovery never stops. You can keep getting better as long as you have the motivation and kind of the right people in your life to help support you to make it happen.
You didn't say AVM superhero. I'm ready for my next question.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, you caught me. All right, AVM superhero. I'm ready for my next question.
All right. Josh says, thank you so much, Vinny, for that information. So that's exactly what I was just talking about. That's why we do it. And I want you to take that from this, Ross, because we're doing this for people like you to ask those questions. We could give you answers. So just imagine you doing that for someone else. and how that would feel for you. It's that gives us a little more energy to keep on going. It gives me more energy to keep on doing research to articulate what's going on with other people that has AVMs. Am I right, Vinny?
For sure, for sure.
Question number 4. Final question. What did the threat of death teach you, sir?
All right. So the threat of death, I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but how it just completely reprioritized my life. It taught me what was really important was not the fact that, oh, some of my friends are getting promoted to higher positions than I'm in. And even that the career that I was in wasn't truly fulfilling me because I didn't feel like I was being of service to anyone. And so it taught me to really value my connections with other people and my impact on other people and how I treat other people. And to just enjoy the little things and like being able to get up out of bed by myself and being able to swallow, like AVM Superhero said, being able to do all these little things that you really take for granted until you lose them with the threat of death. And so that is what it taught me, and that's what I hope it can teach you without you having to go through it if you haven't been through it. And so I'm closing out the show now. So thank you all for joining us on Death Taught Us How to Live. Thank you, AVM Superhero. Thank you, everybody who asked questions. And I guess join next week to hear from Om, right? Yeah, Om. All right, be good. Should I leave?